So right before I left to work, I was playing some Splinter Man Cell Powerhouse on the PS2 emulator, and the game's pretty advanced for its time in terms of mechanics, and I'm actually planning on finishing the game. But I have one huge problem with how I'm playing. I can't fish for Sam's correctly with the analog stick aiming. Now I'm using a knockoff PS3 controller, but it's not like it's that terrible. But this is where I come to realize that analog aiming is just bad everywhere, and that's coming from a hardcore console gamer. And now, don't take me wrong, I've put in different discs besides Splinter Man. I've tried, Call of Duty, Finest Bower, and other games with analog stick aiming, and it's just not good. It's just not fun. I go left, and it just goes too much left. I go right, and it goes way past my target, and it's just not good. But neckbeards swear on the mouse aiming like it's the Bible or the Quran or something. I don't blame them. But I'm using the keyboard when you're aiming with mouse. It's just, why would you use WASD to move forward? Wouldn't an analog stick make more sense? It's just the layout's terrible. You gotta dislocate your pinky to hit control or shift. It's just, there's no sensitivity for the key presses either. So say you're playing Metal Beard Squid 5, the Purple People Eater, and you wanna walk slower, but you can't walk slower. You can't walk slower because there's no sensitivity. You have to dislocate your pinky, hit that control key. There's only two modes for crouch walking, whereas on console you can feather the stick like you're driving a straight drive or something. Yeah, but listen, I had an idea. I hate analog aiming, but I love analog walking. So, here's the plan. We combine mouse aiming with analog stick movement and actual buttons instead of keys. I type with keys. Alright, just hear me out. In one hand, you hold a Joy-Con or a PS VR controller or something with extra buttons on the back and the sides. And on the other, you got your mouse. You can move your mouse around. You got the left click, right click, mouse wheel, mouse click. All right, and then in your left hand, you got the analog stick for your movement, and you got a Guitar Hero type colored button on the back, so that way you can reload or use your special gadgets like your sticky cameras. Alright, so I had this idea on the way home from work at around 10 o'clock, and so it's probably not the best time to have ideas. So I got home and I was like, hey, why don't I just try this out, because I have my PS2 emulator. It's not a big deal. I can just run the game just fine. But here's the problem with my idea, why it's a bad idea. So I'm probably gonna put up a picture of a PlayStation controller or something, but you only got the D-pad, you got the select button, you got the little stick, unless you're playing on a PS1 controller. That controller's been castrated, but you got the stick for the most part, and you got the L1, you got L2, and so I tried mapping out just the rest of the buttons with a mouse on Splinter Man Cell Powerhouse Mitochondria Strikes Back, and it didn't. It kind of worked. I could move and I could aim and I could shoot, and I really did love the mouse controls for aiming. But I tried running that game with normal keyboard controls before I switched over to the one hand on the controller type thing, and it was really hard to sneak up on people, and then I forgot what button was the grab button, and it just didn't really work at all. So anyway, after I moved to this, I quickly realized I was running out of buttons to map out, so I ended up losing my jump button and such, and the weight of the controller was bad. It was kind of off to one side. So then I popped in, Call of Duty, Finest Bower, and that game didn't really work with that mouse aiming either. I was running out of reload buttons, because if you want to move, you got to put your thumb on the left stick, but if you want to reload, you got to hit the D-pad or the buttons or whatever. And you don't want to move and keep reloading, right? That's what the game's about. So you need buttons on the back. You'd have to you'd have to like pry out this D-pad and put it on the back side of this controller, and then maybe you could get something going here. But right now I don't have the correct hardware to like actually make anything like this, so yeah, it might be a while before we actually see anything like this. But maybe it's just a terrible idea in general, and maybe I should just like stop talking about it. But like for the most part, I thought it was kind of cool, just kind of like, ooh, I can run around with my left stick and I could aim and shoot with the mouse. And you got alt fire, and you can do the cool light shooty outy thingy and the Splinter Cell Man thing, right? Right? Yeah, it's a terrible idea. So if you like my idea, you should like comment, hey, I liked your idea. It wasn't a bad idea. Or you could, you could tell me it was a bad idea, because it probably is a pretty bad idea. Yeah.